Good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon. It's your nighttime, right time DJ music. Breaking news, folks, breaking news, breaking news. Have you ever heard the old expression, the fox is in the hen house? That birds of a feather flock together? That one bad apple sometimes do spoil the whole bunch? That you are who you are the company that you keep. Now, we all know about this so-called sham impeachment trial that's going on. And I hear a lot of people saying, we need to impeach Trump. We need to impeach Trump. We need to impeach Trump. Folks, what you don't understand is you can't impeach Trump when you have a body of people at work trying to keep this puppet in play. Now, we find out today that the lawyer that's actually so-called defending Trump in the Senate House chamber, where justice is supposed to be paramount, where justice is supposed to be blind, you have this lawyer, Cipollone, whatever his name is, that was in on this corrupt scheme along with Trump, John Bolton, and a whole host of other folks to shake the Ukrainian president down to dig up dirt on Joe Biden. Because he figured Trump, or not so much Trump, but the folks around him figured that Joe Biden was his closest rival to dethroning him for the presidency. So, the ammunition that they used, of course, was the fact that an unqualified son of Joe Biden was making millions of dollars off a company that he knew nothing about. But let's rewind a second. Wait a minute. Trump's children have patents in China with a foreign country. What is the difference? One did it then, two are doing it now. What is the difference? The difference is that you wanted to come on, you wanted the president of another country to affect the election of 2020 by going on to one of these major networks to announce that Joe Biden was corrupt, that he helped his son land a job based on firing somebody. Although what Joe Biden did had the approval of not only then the president, but other world leaders as well. None of that was done in secret. Everything that's been going on with Trump is absolutely a secret military operation. Final secret. CNN keeps breaking these stories CNN is the leader of cable news. Whether you like it or not, without CNN, there would be none of these other cable news channels. So to be a reporter, your reputation, your prestige is at stake. Why would people lose their whole way of thinking, their whole life work, to tell some lies on national TV? Why would they invent these stories if they weren't true about what the president and all the president's men was doing? The lawyer that's defending these crooked actions is on the Senate floor trying to convince you that Trump is not guilty. They're trying to convince you that a trial that we all know that right now, if I got arrested for doing anything, they might hold me in pretrial confinement, but sooner or later they would have to give me a trial of my peers. And it has to be a speedy trial. They can't hold me in jail for 3 years under the same charge, the writ of habeas corpus. Produce the prisoner or charge him. Now, these are simple things that I've never in a day in my life stepped into a Harvard Law School courtroom. I've never went to any of these places to say that I'm an expert on any law. So if a layman like me knows the difference between going to having a fair trial with witnesses and documents, these so-called law school professors that's now in the Senate also shouldn't have a problem knowing that. Again, I tell you folks, it's not about Donald Trump. That's where we're putting on our blinders. We hate his image. They had to find a bad guy image. They had to find somebody they could pin on reversing everything that Obama did. And they found the perfect guy. A racist, a bigot, a womanizer, a liar, a cheat. Do you guys remember there was a movie back in the day called Dave, where the president had a stroke, but there was a guy out there that looked just like him. So they switched positions. While this president was in recovery, they put Dave in and they taught him the mannerisms of everything. And then they unveiled him to the public. That's basically what all the president's men did here in 2016. They knew Donald Trump was going to come after the Mexicans. They knew Donald Trump was going to try and reverse everything that Barack Obama did based on that roast. The worst thing that ever happened to Donald Trump in his life, that a black man got the best of him in public. And you got folks like John Bolton that understood that. You got folks like William Barr that understood that. Now let's check out this clip right quick. I want you to listen to this, folks.
Let's get back to the breaking news right now. New details from the New York Times about what is in that book coming out from the former National Security Advisor, John Bolton.
And this account, once again, puts President Trump at the center of the Ukraine pressure campaign just hours before we expect the Senate to acquit him on the articles of the impeachment. One of the reporters who broke this story, Maggie Haberman from the New York Times, is on the phone. Maggie, tell our viewers what you've learned.
Sure, thanks for having me. Mike Schmidt and I are reporting that John Bolton, his new manuscript for this book that he's trying to publish, that the White House is trying to stop, at least for now, he described a discussion in early May in the Oval Office that included Mick Mulvaney, the White House Chief of Staff, Pat Cipollone, the White House Counsel, Rudy Giuliani, the President's personal lawyer, and John Bolton, and that Giuliani was talking about these various investigations that they wanted, as we understand it, into some of the President's Democratic rivals, including Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, that the President directed John Bolton to call the incoming president of Ukraine, President Zelensky, and make sure that Rudy Giuliani got a meeting with him in the coming days as Giuliani was planning a trip to Ukraine. The Times reported on that trip that Giuliani was planning almost in real time back in May of 2019. Bolton writes that he did not make that phone call, and White House officials got very upset about Giuliani's potential trip, and the trip was canceled. If Bolton's account is true, it would be the earliest that we know of that the president was involved in instructing people in relation to this pressure campaign with Ukraine for investigation.
All right, folks. For those of us that can remember, of course, if you remember the Clinton impeachment, let's go back a little farther to the Nixon impeachment. The question was asked, what did the president know and when did he know it? He knew from the beginning, along with his lawyers, along with Rudy Giuliani, along with Pat Cipollone, his lawyer, the White House lawyer, his personal lawyer, and anybody that was probably in close proximity that had something to do with this. They all knew. This is a conspiracy. As I said way back in 2015, if this man gets elected, the course of this country will absolutely change. He will consider himself a king. And if you don't believe me, you can go to my Mixcloud page and look it up. Go over to DJ Music on Mixcloud. Go to I forgot the name of the show, but you'll find it. It's with Emma Bradley and Dreadhead Sid. That was in 2015 that I said that. Here it is, 2020. Just the very same things that me and my two co-hosts were talking about that night is happening right now. Now, before I go any further, let me stop here for a minute. Back again, folks. Listen, a couple of days ago, a poll came out that said 95% of black Americans, or as they call us, African Americans, think Trump is a crook, think Trump is a racist, think Trump should be removed from the office. Except, here's a South Carolina state senator by the name of Tim Scott. He's one of those 5%ers. Tim Scott, have you seen in any of this impeachment trial, have you seen him say anything against the president? Even though that he knows 95% of the people that look like him says that he should be removed from office. Whipping boy, that's what you are, Tim Scott. As they call him back then, and they call him now, Sambo is what you are. You're not only standing up for right, Tim Scott, you're standing up for black people that says, wait a minute, we don't want this guy in office. I hear about all this prosperity, but it ain't reached us. I hear about all the good things that Trump is doing, but it ain't reached us. Maybe it reached that 5% of you folks that think Trump is, 5% of black people that think Trump is good. Maybe it reached you guys. Now, here's what Tim Scott had to say about Speaker Pelosi and the transferring of the impeachment articles. Understand something. This is the same talking points that all the Republicans use. Okay? Tim Scott on Speaker Pelosi, final transfer of impeachment articles 2. If Speaker Pelosi, and I quote, if Speaker Pelosi and House Democrats truly believe that the president was a national security wish, why did they wait 28 days to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate? Let's be frank and call it what it is, a political stunt that backfired on her party despite the antics of the House Democrats. I look forward to conducting a fair and speedy trial in the Senate so we can just put this behind us and continue to working on the agenda of everyday Americans first. Well, who is he talking to? Because if he wants a fair and speedy trial, you got to have witnesses. You got to have documents. I wonder if Tim Scott, in his right mind, thinking, wait a minute, the fox is in the hen house. Birds of a feather do flock together. Black people that's from South Carolina, I implore you that the final resting place for Tim Scott should be 2020. Let's not have this jigaboo yassaboss that go along with white establishment to keep Donald Trump in office, because all they needed was one more vote. Tim Scott could have been that vote just based on, hey, my people say they want him gone. The president did it. They said if it's good for my re-election chances, 95% of African Americans would come out in droves for me. I'm not worried about not getting re-elected. My folks got me, Tim Scott. But instead, you rather wait on Trump's base. Well, we got numbers down here, Tim Scott.